Yo, what up? Welcome to another episode of the Oakland Warriors podcast. I'm Patrick, and again, I am joined by my friend Vubang. What's up, Vubang?
What's up? Still the preseason, so I'm definitely still here.
You're my preseason guy. How about that?
I'm excited. Okay. I don't know about the real season.
So the Warriors, they're what, like 5-0? Are you impressed? Are you enthused? Are you optimistic?
Even if I were to lie and say I was not enthused, my YouTube algorithm definitely knows that I'm enthused because I've just been hit with all of these basketball YouTubers, or they just pseudo Warrior YouTubers, but all of these titles are just like the NBA has no idea what's coming, or the Warriors are better than you think, or watch out for Moses Moody, or 20-minute play breakdown of this like.
Everybody's looking at the same YouTube advice online of how to write those titles, and I guess they work. I gotta admit, I've done it a couple times too.
What did work on me is the 6-minute breakdown of the Terry Stotts. Like the secret to this season will be Terry Stotts and all the plays he ran for Damian Lillard. I did for that clickbait, and it did waste 6 minutes of my time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to have Stotts and Stackhouse on the bench. It's those guys are legit. Not knocking Atkinson or guys from the past, but they just didn't have Atkinson never had like that gravitas that I think these other guys have, because we've seen Stotts a ton in the playoffs getting smoked by the Warriors. And Stackhouse, I mean, I had dreams of drafting that guy in the mid 90s instead of, they ended up with Joe Smith, but I was like, Wallace, Garnett, Stackhouse, Joe Smith, So finally got him on the bench.
The Kenny Atkinson thing is, that's how we ended up with him, right? He didn't have the gravitas to handle a Brooklyn Nets team that had actual big names on it. And so that's why we ended up with him. But apparently he was a player development guy. So if you trust the fact that he developed our players, then good on you. But I would prefer a higher profile X's and O's guy like a Terry Stotts to handle the offense, that is.
Oh yeah, same here. And Atkinson, he landed in a decent spot. He's not with the Charlotte Hornets, so good for him.
Anywhere but the Hornets is a decent spot.
Yeah. So I want to talk about everybody's, favorite Warrior of the day, of the week, Moses Moody, who's had a couple really, really impressive outings. And I don't know, we talked last week, and I was like, he was my prediction, I think, for the one guy to get moved, just because there were so many wings and two guards that seemed to be ahead of him. What's your take on Moody's status right now?
I've been watching just Moody and JK highlights this past week. I just think Moody just fits in better with the offense, and I think he is much more sound on the defensive end than JK. I think Kuminga overcommits a lot, and he just really, like I've said this multiple times in this podcast, but he feels like he's playing for a different team in a different speed than Moses Moody. Like sometimes I forget that Moody's there, but in a good way. Like he's just flowing in the middle of the offense, and then when he actually makes a play, that's when obviously I notice him. But he's been making a lot more plays lately. I just hope this is not like a contract year. Moses Moody, I hope he really does care. I know in the past we've been burned by contract year players. God, I'm sure I had a list running in my head when I was very young of all the guys that kind of blew through the Warriors and get through a contract year. But I think I would rather keep. I don't know if this is a crazy take, but I'd rather keep Moody than Kuminga at this point. I don't know what their values are outside of the team, but I feel like the Warriors value Moody more internally than Kuminga.
I think it all depends on who you get back, right? Like that's the obvious answer. Like straight up, Kuminga gets you more in the same package than Moody or whatever. So I think that they play, even though they overlap at the 3, Kuminga plays 4 and Moody plays 2. So I think his battle, Moody's, is more with the 2 guards on the team and Wiggins, whereas like Kuminga is mostly just Wiggins. And I guess he's never going to replace Draymond, but Kuminga's a three. He was always a three, but he hasn't proven like the skill set to be a consistent three in the NBA. And Kerr, the vets, they all favor Wiggins, at least 2022 Wiggins. Whereas, in my opinion, I actually think that the Warriors value Kuminga, the front office does more than the players and the coaches. But that being said, I also, I mean, I would keep Kuminga over Moody, but they're two different guys. I'd love to keep both of them and see how that all plays out. If you get rid of Kuminga, you just lose. Their athleticism is so low at this point. If you get rid of Kuminga, and then it's just like, whoa, these guys are playing in concrete. And to me, Kuminga's defense, I think it'll get better. I mean, I just think he has the desire. There's times where it's like, oh, head scratcher here and there, but I don't think there's anybody else on the roster who gives you what he does. And, I'm just getting my preseason Kuminga like engines revved up because for like the past 4 years, I've done episodes about just talking about Kuminga and how he should play, and I'll get more minutes and all that. But at this point, I don't know. Do you put Moody? Let's look at the two guards. I mean, where do you think Moody fits with Podziemski, with Melton in that mix? How do you think this all shakes out?
I mean, I can't predict who's actually going to start over the rest, but I can just talk about the criteria for what's going to be happening, which is Podziemski is going to push his way into the lineup somehow. Like, it's going to be hard to keep him off. Melton with his 3-and-D, I think Steve Kerr is going to rely on him to pair him up with Steph Curry. And Moody is just staking a claim right now. I just don't know if it's because of the preseason that they're letting him get his minutes. I mean, Warrior fans have been baffled by why Steve Kerr just never gives Moody minutes, right? So he's making some mistakes out there that we just don't see and they don't talk about. And so either Kerr just lets him play this year, which it sounds like he's doing right now in the preseason. But I feel like also just based on things that I've been hearing people say, especially Steve Kerr, it just sounds like Melton has a job until further notice. And it might be a Steph Curry thing too. I mean, I'd imagine Steph Curry has a say in who he's going to be in the lineup with. And I know we're going to talk about the different lineups. The NBA hasn't released, well, I don't have access to it because I don't pay for it, but like what the minutes are and over the net ratings for each of the lineups have been. And so just based on last year and the lineups I'm seeing, they're really just going to look at the offensive and defensive ratings and just go from that. Like, it's going to be statistical. So until I see those numbers, we won't be able to know who's going to start.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Because like Podziemski's already a favorite of Steve Kerr's, and Melton just has that veteran solidness that, I mean, Moody hasn't had a chance to get yet. I mean, I'll go back. Like, I think that, I was reading something on Reddit where they were defending Steve Kerr's ability to foster young talent and whatnot. And I think it was a refuting of all the chatter saying that Kerr sucks at that. And I mean, yeah, Kerr's just he hasn't proven to be good at fostering young talent, and he hasn't had to because he's had veteran laden teams. And when they finally got lottery picks, it was a COVID year. It was a Clay Achilles year. It was Steph coming back from the broken hand the year after that. It was all this weird stuff. So, and then Kerr's just very much leaning on veterans and whatnot. So I don't think you can necessarily say he's great at it. I think at the end of last season, the pressers, it was like Moody needs to, it is true for Kuminga as well. They need to move the ball. They need to make decisions more quickly and whatnot. And it looks like Moody's doing it. It looks like both of them are doing that, in my opinion. I know you think Kuminga needs to move it faster, but I think he has more latitude to try to find something off bounce or take his man low in the post. But Moody seems to be moving the ball quicker, and he's just more aggressive. And I think that's something, at the end of the day, it's good. It's a good problem to have right now because eventually somebody gets hurt, right? Like it's just a fact of the game. And maybe you'll see dudes sit more. Maybe you'll see Draymond sit more. Maybe you'll see Steph take some nights off and whatnot and get, Pods and Moody in there. You know what I mean? But it's going to be tough because it's like, it sucks because Kuminga, that guy works hard and that guy wants to be good. He wants to be great. And Moody, he's quiet but he seems to work hard and all that stuff. But it's like Wiggins is blocking both of them, right? And for what it's worth, it's like, Wiggins' effort and availability. I know there's personal stuff with him, but it's just because the veterans and Kerr lean on what they know of him from 2022 and that he's still a good on-ball defender. That blocks both Moody and Kuminga from taking a step up.
Yep. So in response to all 4 or 5 points I think you just made, I want to take them all in reverse order. The first is, if you recall, Kuminga last year started getting minutes after he started chirping. His camp started chirping. So I wonder what would happen if Moody started doing the same. It looks like he is going to be signing a contract. Like there's murmurs out there that they're looking at the mid-level exception range, which is around like 12, 13 million a year, apparently.
That's a deal. That's a deal for Moody, man.
We'll see. I mean, that would be obviously a really good deal. About Kerr, I feel like there's different levels there's coaches that are able to handle different levels of experience. Kerr came in as a coach that was ready to get a young up and coming team to the next level. Right. And he came in right at the right time. Like all the pieces were there. They had not won anything significant yet. And he pushed them over. And then for the next, 6 years or whatever, he was managing personalities, just like Kevin Durant, everybody. Like that's a totally different type of, that's why Kenny Atkinson got pushed out for a bigger name. Right. And then for the 2 years where he was supposed to be like, quote unquote, developing young talent. I don't know if you consider Eric Pascal and Jordan Poole to be young talent, but that's a totally different type of coach, right? That's a coach that is not going to get paid that much, and they're really just trying to lose, right? And so the fact that he even stayed during those years is a testament to the organization. And now he's expected to develop young talent while not necessarily managing the stars anymore, because these stars are completely manageable. Honestly, now that Klay Thompson's gone, it's really just Andrew Wiggins that needs the talent management. So, I mean, I'm not one of those guys that busts Kerr all the time, because he's been, what can you expect more from him right now? I think it's nitpicky, especially, if people are still complaining about how the US won the gold as opposed to actually winning the gold medal. But back to Moody and Pods. I do want to mention, did you see the ESPN top 100 list?
I did not. It's out.
Did you see the bottom 20%? The bottom 20.
I mean, I didn't see any of it.
Can you guess where Brendan? Well, first of all, let's guess where Andrew Wiggins is in the top 100.
Okay.
Where would you put him?
93.
Overall? That's close. He was 90.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, can you guess where Brendan Pajemski is?
69.
Let me first tell you some of the names that are on here that are below him. Okay. Mitchell Robinson, CJ Cullum, Lou Dort, Jaime Jaquez, Naz Reid, Isaiah Hartenstein, Michael Porter Jr., Wiggins, obviously, Valanciunas, Jabari Smith Jr., Keegan Murray, Jalen Suggs, Al Horford, Mike Conley, Herb Jones, Chris Paul, and Anthony Simons.
These people are supposed to be worse than Pajemski?
Yeah, he was ranked 78.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah. There's been a lot of back and forth at ESPN. Like a handful of folks say
some people must have watched Summer League, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know what they watched. I don't know. They must have been watching highlights from Santa Clara for all we know. Draymond was also number 66. He dropped from 55 to 66.
Rightfully so. They should drop him for one spot for every game he got suspended for last year.
So now that we're done with the bottom 20, and this is very reflective of where the Warriors are, right? Because most of the top players in the bottom 20. Now that the top 10 just released today, do you want to talk about the top 10 list and obviously where Steph Curry ranks on it?
Sure, sure. I won't look it up. You can teach me or school me on it.
To get out of the way, where do you think Steph Curry ranks?
I think he I think people were down on him, even though he was carrying the team towards the end of last season, or quote unquote, a little bit more down on him. I think he picked himself up because of the Olympics, but I think also people are looking at how old he is. And so I say he is number 8.
That's lower than what ESPN thought. So the top 5 are reflective of the top teams in the playoffs, I think. So Jokic, number 1, Doncic, number 2, Giannis, number 3, maybe not reflective of the playoffs then, but number 4, Shea, which is not a surprise because of where OKC is. But I think for non-NBA fans, I think they might think that. Tatum is number 5, and Steph Curry is number 6.
Okay.
So we're talking
Who's 7 and 8?
Number 7 is LeBron, obviously. Number 8 is Joel. And number 9 is Kevin Durant. If you remember Kevin Durant, he used to play for the Warriors. And number 10, speaking of players that we missed during the draft because of a freaking ping pong ball, is Anthony Edwards.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's
so. With the next 20 minutes, we're talking about Anthony Edwards and James Wiseman. If everybody wants to tune out. Just kidding. We're not doing that.
So how do you feel about that top 10?
I think it's great. I mean, I think this is exactly where everything should be. Yeah, I mean, just the fact that Steph Curry and LeBron are here on teams that are just going to be in the bottom, according to all the statistics, going to be in the bottom 10, I think is fine. I think, God, I mean, I really wish we could have a Clippers fan here to just talk about Shea and Paul George getting injured. And that's another 10, 15 minutes. What a way to open up Intuit Dome. People are getting really excited about Intuit Dome right now.
Yeah. Was anybody else on the Warriors on this list?
Yeah. I mean, the bottom 20, right? Oh, any other Warriors besides the ones we just talked about?
Yeah.
I mean, who else would be higher than who we talked about? Than Brandon?
No, that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
no, I don't think so.
Kuminga?
And was Clay on the list? Former Warrior?
Clay's on the list. Yeah. Clay is number,
really?
Let's see.
Is he higher than Draymond?
He definitely dipped. I think he's in the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds about right. Yeah, I think that Steph being number 6 is solid, right? Like you said, top 5 is playoff teams, like for sure, top end playoff teams, and then then they did the old Steph, LeBron, KD in the bottom 5. That sounds that sounds like fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we're really just nitpicking a few numbers back and forth at this point, but
yeah. So I guess Moses Moody is not on that list.
I mean, it's for Warrior fans. Do you want to know where Tyrese Halliburton is?
He is top 20 for sure.
Yeah, number 16.
Okay, I was going to say 15. Yeah, how many? No, I'm not going to waste the listeners' time by asking you to tell me how many people on that list were on the board when the Warriors drafted in 2020 and 2021. So
I mean, that would require an Excel spreadsheet that I'm totally willing to put together.
Maybe next time.
Yeah. Actually, Clay is number 71 on the list, but he was 41 before, so he dropped 30. I feel like that's a sentimental number, just based. Oh, they didn't watch the preseason when they put this together.
Yeah, it's sentimental, and it remains to be seen who's going to be better this season, Clay or Wiggins. I want to talk to you about rotation. I know we touched on this like last time. Who do you think gets cut out of this rotation? Right? Like, assume it's like 10 guys, right? Because you have Steph, you have Draymond, and then it's like a mix of Wiggins, Kuminga, Jackson Davis, Pajemski, Melton, Hield, Anderson, Moody. Then you go with like Looney, and then Gary Payton II. That's 12, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody. Like, assuming it's like a 10-man rotation, I know it fluctuates during the regular season. Which 2 guys do you think get left out?
The way I would answer this is I would first start with the lineup that had the most minutes last season. which is the data point that we have access to right now. And would you be surprised to know that we have all those 5 players right now on the team, the lineup that had the most minutes?
No, I don't think I'd be surprised by that.
Curry, Green, Andrew Wiggins, Kuminga, and Podziemski. That was the lineup that got 232 minutes last year with a 117 offensive rating and 105 defensive rating. You have to drop down all the way to like 12, 14 to get another lineup that we still have all the players right now, which is Curry, Green, Wiggins, Looney, Moody. All the other lineups had a combination of Klay Thompson and Saric. And so I'm saying all that is if we're using that as a starting point, obviously Curry and Green are in. I would want to start with what worked last year and then go from there. And so let's start with like Wiggins, Kuminga, and Podziemski. Who do you think is the first person out? I'm just going to say Wiggins first initially, just because he hasn't played. I don't know what's going on with him. We all know he has some sort of sickness.
I mean, he has played.
Yeah. And so I'm going to assume that he's not going to be significant in the first month. And so that's the first person out for me. I don't know how serious Podziemski's nose thing is. I mean, I feel like everybody's always happy when they just hear, oh, it's just a broken nose, as if they can just rip Hamilton a face mask on and he's going to play better, you know? So I don't know about that.
Well, they said he was just waiting for his mask, literally, like what you just said. So that's what I heard about him not playing against the Lakers earlier in the week. So, yeah.
And then,
there goes that logic.
So, I mean, I don't know if they're gonna, that lineup is. I would start with that lineup and replace Wiggins.
With who?
I hate answering these questions.
I'll give you 2 options: Jackson Davis or Moody, or Hield.
Do you ever see Kuminga Moody play that often together?
No, like but when I do, I get really excited to see how that looks. But you know, okay. But how about the?
But I mean, I for me personally, like Jackson Davis, like I love him on the floor. I mean, it's just like poetry. It's like ballet.
Yeah.
Am I over exaggerating things?
A little bit, but you know, that's good. You know, ballet.
Yeah,
good.
I mean, I love seeing him play.
Yeah. How about like the bench, end of the bench? Who do you think doesn't actually stay in the rotation coming off the pine?
I mean, are we sure that Gary Payton is good right now? I know we came up with this narrative that the Warriors are going to rest him to the very end, but he just seems to be not as big of a factor as he was when we first signed him.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to say who gets cut out, I would say Payton is definitely one of them. And it really depends on how Moody looks out there, because he would be the 4th guard off the bench. And I think it's crazy to say, but it's just like, I don't put it past Kerr to go with Hield for shooting, then Melton and Podziemski. But Payton, I mean, I would personally, you know, put him in like a hyperbaric chamber and crack him open when the postseason starts, just to throw him at point guards to see what happens. But you know, he looks like he's not as explosive, and it's age, it's injury and whatnot. And with other guys out there, you know, Melton, Moody, Kuminga, who can pick it up a little bit more defensively, especially the young guys more so than the past, then maybe you don't need Payton out there as much. I would honestly like limit his minutes just because of injury, and not because I dislike him, but just I think it'll pay off more towards the end of the season. So that's just my kind of take on it. And you know, who knows?
Yeah, I feel like he's the type of player that doesn't need to be in a rhythm to just go out there and make a difference. He's just and he's just coming in.
he's hit his corner threes, especially last game. So he's got that stroke going, but he hasn't seemed as explosive, like going for rebounds that he used to kind of get in the mix with bigger dudes and tip balls, keep them alive. So it hasn't done that as much, but again, it's a small sample size. So we'll see. I mean, like we've said before, three of their guards, if you want to count Payton as a guard, even though he plays, center in the Warriors offense a lot, three of their guards, him, Melton, and Healed, have an injury history or injury histories amongst them. So, as long as a couple of them are healthy, then that's good. So, we'll see. But
I thought when you said the end of the bench, I thought we were going to spend the next 20 minutes talking about like the Santa Cruz Warriors and like Spencer and Beekman and why we lost Plowden, which was like 20 minutes of our group text, like everybody complaining about Atlanta picking up Plowden, who's a Jesus Christ superstar of the summer of the preseason and summer league, but who knows if he's going to be good in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guard, so like I like who they have more so than him, and I like that dude they got from OKC, Lindy
Waters. Yeah, I'm a Lindy Waters believer.
Yeah, so he's got a nice stroke. So I think they're covered at guard, both offensively and defensively. They may just be missing, having an athletic guard on offense, but they've survived without that before, as long as they got shooting and whatnot. I did a quick poll on YouTube asking what the best Warriors lineup is right now, opening lineup, closing lineup, whatever. I said, okay, so far as of recording, 70% say Steph, Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond, Jackson Davis, which I believe Kerr rolled out to start the first game against the Lakers in the preseason. Did you catch that at all?
No, I didn't. Wait, so who was the two guard? It was Kuminga?
Wiggins.
It was Wiggins?
Yeah. It's the well, so it's a hell of a defensive lineup if you think about Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond, and Jackson Davis. Shooting is definitely an issue, but 70%, I will say, said that was the best lineup. 12% said Steph, Moody, Kuminga, Draymond, Jackson Davis. Again, this is an unscientific poll.
Well, that's the Warriors Reddit thread right there. For that one.
This is the fan fiction, right? But that's the one that I kind of want to see, right? I just told you that I want to see Moody and Kuminga play together more, but maybe by the end of the season, who knows? 9% was Steph, Pajemski, Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond. That's the one that you mentioned as their best lineup
from last year.
Yeah, and that one's solid, right? Like you got three connectors, two athletic wings, a little small up front, but three good defenders, although your guards can get run by a lot. And then 6% was Steph, Melton, Wiggs, Draymond, Jackson Davis.
That seems more realistic. That seems like the boring, realistic pick. That seems like the actual fan nonfiction.
That
seems like the lineup that Steve Kerr is going to go with, and everybody's going to complain about for like the next month.
Yeah, that's the one where like Steve Kerr's looking at it, and it's like in the Wolverine meme where he's like staring at a photo and like touching it. Like that's the lineup he sees, right? The very sensible defensive and whatnot. That was 6%, and then YouTube only allows 5 options, so the last one was Steph, Moody, Wiggs, Kuminga, Draymond, and that was 3%. So
I love being on a podcast where the possibility of having a 20 lineup, a multiple choice question on YouTube was in your head. You're like, I was only allowed to ask 5. You'll give 5 options.
I know. It's just like then the Pods version, and then the Kuminga version, and then the Melton version, and then I didn't even throw Healed in there. But I don't mind seeing these combinations.
This is great. I mean, this is great to talk about this early in the season. This is also not how you win a championship. Like you win a championship by having a team that's 7 deep or whatever. And so I really do wonder how many, quarters and 50-cent coins we can trade for $1 in this case, which I think is definitely going to happen. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, we will see. I mean, it's funny, right? Like, just as an aside, I keep seeing. I don't go on Twitter as much as I used to, thank God. But like, I keep seeing people complain when like Lauri Markkanen has a good game. They complain about pods. Complain about pods. I just want to clarify. There was no reality where including pods in the package would have made Danny Ainge be like, yes. You know what I mean? Like, he was just pushing and pushing to see what he could get, to see what the value was. There was no like, well, if you throw in pods, then I'll send you Lauri. So like, people who
For
are mad about front office at the front office or at Dunleavy for like not throwing in pods, it wasn't pods. It wasn't that was not like, if he threw them in, Ainge was not going to green light the thing. So just to clarify.
for all of those complaining, just know that this is the year where the Clippers owe a pick swap to the OKC Thunder, the year that Cooper Flag is going to be available. And so there's a real possibility where the Clippers end up in the lottery, because we all know that Paul George is gone and Kawhi is going to be injured, and they will very likely end up in some form of the lottery. And if OKC ends up with Cooper Flag, this is a telltale sign of like why everybody is salivating over the non-Steph year trade swaps and picks, because that's going to be the year where it's going to happen, where we might end up losing those picks. I in the future, we still might, like, and I don't know if Lauri Markkanen is the one who is going to make it happen for us. I mean, I feel like if we're going to do it, it's going to be for somebody with a greater profile. I'd want to actually wait for somebody who wants to come to the Warriors. I know people sort of talk about playing with Steph, but I haven't seen anybody yet, big name, other than it's been like since Andre Iguodala, right? Who's like, I want to be traded and the Warriors are on my list. I think Paul George to some degree said that, but until that, we have to save our pieces until we get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that no one's doing that because the Warriors aren't a contender, and they're not, the vets are on the downside. You're not getting like David West. He ain't walking through that door. You know what I mean? Although I have seen a few, elbow jumpers from Looney that remind me of David West. So, we'll see. We'll see if that continues.
Are you going to show up the Warrior games with a free Looney shirt? Because I feel like that would be very popular if you had with like an image of him, Milwaukee Looney, on the back.
I mean, now that's an idea.
You can wear that. I'll have a free Gee shirt. It looks better, and it'll have like a Nino in the back.
Yeah. Okay. Real quick, I want to talk about who are the. I want to talk about the Warriors' best dunkers, because they have a lack of athleticism. I want you to rank their, 4 best dunkers.
I'm gonna start with Pat Spencer. No, that's a fan fiction pick. I mean, obviously it's Kuminga first. I feel like Kuminga pulls back to some degree because he's kind of like shy about it. Like, I've seen a few like opportunities for him to do a tomahawk, and he just sort of like plunks it in, like that quick dunk that I hate playing against guys that played NBA jams and they always went for the quick dunk because you couldn't block it. Those are the dunks that I think Kuminga's been doing just to get the ball through the hoop and not make a big mess. I would say Trace Jackson Davis, just because of that dunk on Wemby. Yeah, I mean, and then who else? I guess Gary Payton, just for the impact of some of his dunks in the past. I don't know if he could do it now, to what degree, but like we all know what happens with all those dunks, especially during the 2022 run. And then I'm just gonna stick with my Pat Spencer pick.
Do you remember the Pat Spencer preseason dunk from 2 seasons ago? I believe it was massive. And
I don't know how lacrosse is played, but is there a dunking involved in lacrosse at all? Because did you know Pat Spencer? I know this is now the Pat Spencer podcast, but Pat Spencer's brother apparently got picked up or drafted or something. Did you hear about this?
In the NBA?
Yeah. Am I hearing that? Did I hear that wrong?
I don't know. I don't have my ear to the ground like you do on those kinds of things, apparently.
Yeah, Cam Spencer, 53rd overall pick by the Detroit Pistons. Traded to the Grizzlies. He plays for the Grizzlies.
Where did he go to school?
UConn. He went to UConn. There you go.
Oh, that's solid, obviously. Okay, my dunkers. I'm cheating here. I'm gonna go Kuminga, Jerry Stackhouse. uh, Literally, I was watching the game and I was like, I think he might be the second best dunker on the team at this point. I'll go Wiggins third. I'll go Payton fourth, and then there's really nobody else. Like I don't usually pick like a big guy as the dunker or as the best dunkers, just because it's different. But sure, I'll throw Jackson Davis. So Kuminga, Stackhouse, Wiggins, Payton, Jackson Davis. Those are my best dunkers on the Warriors.
I would like to see I mean, can we want to do top 3-point shooters then? Because then I would pick Steve Kerr over Steph Curry.
I told you I was kind of bending the rules a little bit. Last but not least, your favorite guy, James Wiseman, is coming off the bench for the Indiana Pacers. He's put up good numbers. He got knocked around, had some bad moments against the Grizzlies, though. Do you have any predictions on what kind of year he has?
Before I answer that, I do want folks to Google Yuki Kawamura, the 5'8" guard that's playing for the Grizzlies right now. Google him and Wiseman, and you'll get some amazing highlights from their preseason game. It's been really fun to watch those. Yeah, I mean, he's already not. Zach Edey is already better than Wiseman, also. So I think they were probably the same age, actually. But yeah, I mean, I feel like he's just gonna. I mean, he's just gonna bumble around the NBA. I mean, he's just really gonna be. He's going to be exactly what he wants to be, which is live the DJ lifestyle, like go from city to city. Maybe he could play some games and afterwards, like DJ an after party. You know, like this is what he has always wanted. He's always wanted to be a DJ. Music is first for him.
Is that true? It is. This narrative, is this true?
That was I think it was on Slam magazine. It was one of the articles. It was like a picture of him in front of a vinyl bar and how like,
I remember the
DJ.
I remember the photos, but I didn't read the article. Did he?
I'm over exaggerating his love for music and DJing, but I assume as somebody who has acted like he was cursed with the height and has to play basketball, which I mean he did. I mean he obviously had a difficult upbringing, and so good on him to make it out with basketball. But I just don't think he enjoys playing basketball.
Okay, so what's your?
Yeah, I think he's gonna bumble around the NBA. I'm surprised he made it to a playoff team, frankly.
Yeah. Well, I'm still pulling for Wiseman. I won't rehash the hours of episodes I've done speaking on Wiseman in the past, but I think he'll have. I guess he has no way to go but up. But I think at least on a team like the Pacers, where he has no pressure. He has guys his own age who aren't playing for a job. So they'll actually pass him the ball and set him up. And if he gets minutes with Halliburton, I mean, that's just painful for a Warriors fan. But I think he'll be solid. He'll be decent. He just needs to, seeing some of those bad highlights against the Grizzlies, I was like, oh man. I remember when he got drafted, it was like he was athletic and big and strong. But one thing I always said about him is like he's not a wide guy. He has like really narrow hips, and his strength was pure working out, just muscle mass, like a skinny frame who put on muscle mass. And then when you look at him out there, he's just a skinny guy, and he gets knocked around, and that's what happened against Zach Edey.
Yeah, Edey.
So, but we'll see. I think he can play. It's all about matchups for him and getting his confidence and whatever. But, that's just me. And that's the James Wiseman blurb that you'll probably hear on this podcast maybe once every 5 months or something at this point.
I mean,
any final thoughts?
How many decades were the Blazers talking about Sam Bowie before they stopped?
Forever. I mean, especially as soon as the internet came about and people realized it, right? Like, hey, if you're a fan, you're a fan. I talk about Mitch Richmond. I talk about, the Warriors not being able to draft, being screwed in the draft and not getting the Patrick Ewing pick, but they got Chris Mullin, which was great. Talk about Chris Webber, right? This is part of it. This is part of like the pain and the glory.
I think I talk about Tom Gugliotta once every 2 months. And as somebody who's 44 years old, it just pains me to have to talk about the same 10 people that have impacted my life as much as James Wiseman has. So
yeah, it's
I don't think we
I
win the
remember
2022 championship if Halliburton was on the team. I mean, there's a chance we
why
win
is that?
two championships, but I would
Why is
assume that
that?
it would. I don't know. It's just fate. I mean, a
Oh,
butterfly flapped its wings. Like
okay.
all the things that had to happen for the 22 championship, which is like relying on the 7 players that got us there and not having to try to fit in a Halliburton. Can you imagine the amount of hours they had to would have had to put in and minutes taken away from the guards to figure out how Halliburton's shot can get into that system. They would have never changed the shot, but his mechanics and all of it would have just been really confusing. I don't think we win the championship, but
Right. So you're talking butterfly effect, not like if you put him as a second year or was second year? Yeah, second year player on the Warriors. It would have really made the Jordan Poole situation interesting, you know.
yeah.
Like, he would have shown himself to be a much better player than Poole. And although Poole would have probably jacked up a ton of shots still and whatnot. But also if we drafted Halliburton, what would have never happened is the Nico Mannion era.
That's
And maybe not even the Brad Wanamaker era. Wait, was that the Brad Wanamaker year? No, that was again. It's
it's all confusing.
brain
I need a
fog.
Gantt chart.
Yeah. Going back to Gugliotta, I remember distinctly. Maybe it was like 1997 or something. Watching the Warriors play, or maybe even earlier. Maybe it was soon after Donyell Marshall came to the Warriors, and watching the number 3 pick in the 94 draft or something, and being like, this guy is not good. This guy is Donyell Marshall is not that guy. He's terrible. As much as I wanted to, I was like, nah, he ain't that dude. But anyway, that is the end of our march down memory lane. Any final observations or thoughts on the preseason?
I'm very looking forward to the Lakers game, the final game of the preseason. I feel like this is when Laker fans and Warriors. This might be the height of Warrior Laker fandom right now. Is this preseason matchup? And how we did you know we won we won the matchup last year, 3 out of 4 games. I didn't even think about that.
Regular season? Wow.
Yeah, regular season. So at least
What's your-
we know this is like my Cal Stanford day, my Cal days, like losing everything, but at least you beat Stanford. So
Yeah,
at least this year, I just want to sweep the Lakers. How about that?
I feel like every now and then I'll just pull out like a random prediction question. What do you think the Warriors' record is end of season?
I would say the same record as last year minus the suspension games. Like let's just say that we go 50, 60, we win 60% of the suspension games that that Draymond was in. So I'm throwing you a math problem. That's what I think. It's going to be that much better.
56 wins, roughly.
Wow, you did that off the top of your head.
wins.
That's pretty good. You know exactly how many suspensions? Was it 17 or something? How many games?
No. I think it was like 10 or sorry, 20-ish or something. Gotcha. I don't know. I'm obviously like just guessing, but like, and the Warriors didn't lose all those games, that he missed. But, I think I'll go optimistic. You say 56, but that's really optimistic. I will say 51.
I read somewhere that the Warriors record from last year, if it was the same year before, that they would be, I don't know, 4th or 5th. Like I forgot what the number was, but it's really about the West being that good last year.
Yeah.
I think the West is worse this year than last year. Is that crazy to think? I think it's more top heavy, but overall the middle to bottom pack. Like I'm not scared of Denver anymore. Minnesota may or may not have gotten worse. I'm scared, obviously scared of the Thunder. Like they're better and they will get better. The Jazz, the Blazers are going to be at the bottom. I'm not scared of the Suns at all. Are you scared of the Suns? I'm not scared of the Kings. No. The Clippers are worse.
See, the thing is, like, I feel like there's fewer teams to be scared of, but I think there's a lot of teams that are good, right? Like you just named a bunch of teams that could beat the Warriors on any given night because they play well or the Warriors mess up. And like the teams you name that you're not scared of, they're still going to be in the mix for the top 6. So it's going to be tough. It's not like the years where there's like 2 good teams or 3 good teams and everybody else is like not that great. So I think you'll have competitiveness everywhere. I'm seeing all these articles about parity in the league, and that's what they wanted, right? Like look at all these teams that are at the top of the West. They're all the flyover states, right? The Midwest, Denver, OKC, Minnesota. And that's what they'd hoped for. That's what they wanted. But you mentioned earlier, like if OKC gets Cooper Flag, well, like let's see what the roster looks like in 3 years, 4 years. Who, are they just going to build around him? And
they can't. They wouldn't be able to afford all those players.
Exactly, and Chet, right? Like so, then you're trying to max out 3 guys, and that's going to be tough, man. That's going to be tough, and it's insane. Like these salaries are crazy, man. It's crazy that these guys are getting paid like 60 plus million.
It's not crazy. It's worth it. They should be getting paid more in an open market.
No, I'm not saying like it's unfair. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's crazy how much it is, right? Because I remember back in the 90s, it's like when Jordan got paid 30 mil as like a balloon thank you payment. But like before that, like here's a funny thing. It's like, I mean, you could talk about this for forever, but how like movie star salaries were like, oh, Julia Roberts gets 20 million. And then the athletes get like under that per year. But now it's like triple that. And, movie stars, for whatever it's worth, I don't really care. But like, it's just, it's crazy to see how like this has evolved over time. And, sports is.
I just don't want the narrative out there that the players are getting paid too much, because they're getting paid less than market, but they should be getting paid. They get a share of the NBA. Like what should be crazy is how much the NBA is making, because nobody's saying, I can't believe how much the owners are making. No one really says that, right? And so the players are getting, I wouldn't even say they're getting paid a lot. I wouldn't even say they're getting paid a fair amount. They're getting paid not the actual market rate that they should be getting because of the way the CBA is set up. They're getting paid what the league and the players union has set up. But this totally makes sense. Yesterday, I was sitting at the TV trying to figure out whether or not I want to watch Disney Plus, Hulu, or Amazon Prime, or Netflix, or live TV, and I was just stunted and just watched YouTube videos all day. The George Clooney and Brad Pitt are in the same movie together this year, and that wouldn't have happened before if it was still people going out to theaters and their movies making $1 billion. Live TV is the only thing that can make money right now, and the players should get what they're worth, because this is the only way I'm watching a commercial. I mean, I pay for premium YouTube, so this is literally the only way I watch a commercial is watching Warrior games, and that's the only way to get to my market. So I think they're getting paid just right or below what they're making. But yes, they're getting paid way more than before.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, they should get what they deserve. That's obviously not what I'm knocking, but I'm just saying, like, dang, it's crazy, because sports is like the one thing that people will tune into appointment viewing, and if that, right? So it is the media industries continue to evolve somehow, some way. Any other final thoughts?
You can cut this off, because I want to spend the next 5 minutes talking about the Clippers and what your thoughts are being in LA.
Okay.
Because I cannot have imagined a worse situation than what's going on right now. This is what happens when you give somebody who makes billions of dollars a year just on the dividends of his stock the full reins of a franchise. Like, what could possibly be worse than what's happening right now with the Clippers? You move into a brand new stadium that looks like an amazing stadium, amazing arena. It's got every single basketball jersey for every single high school up there. I see my high school basketball jersey up there. I didn't play basketball, obviously, but I see my high school up there on the raft, on a wall, into it, which is making me want to go see a game there. The Clippers logo looks like a cruise ship line. They lost Paul George after trading everybody, and they'll probably end up in the lottery. Like, what can possibly be worse right now for the Clippers?
Without their pick, as you said, potentially.
Yeah. So that's my final thought. But I do have to go.
Yeah. Well, at least the Clippers, that's one team that is not just worse, but they're just going to be bad. But cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on. I will catch you on the other side.